Boker Tov, Shalom Aleichem, everyone. Hag Sameach, Hanukkah. It is Hanukkah Eve. Tonight we light the first lights of the miracle Hanukkah, celebrating the miracle of Hanukkah, the restoration of the temple, the miraculous defeat of Hellenism, and it's amazing. So, and what a wonderful time to celebrate this holiday on the darkest day on the calendar. Baruch HaShem. You know, the great thing about Hanukkah is that we have 8 nights. It's an 8-day celebration. And, you know, the other celebration that people have this time of year, after today, it'll be over. That'll be it. It'll be like it never happened. People, it'll be business as usual tomorrow. And it'd be like, yep, that's it. Not so for us. We get 8 nights of talking about the miracles of God, the wonders of God, and so on and so forth. It's going to be amazing. So today, speaking of miracles, we get to talk about the story of Joseph and now his ascension to the throne. And today we get to discuss a crucial pattern that we see, and that is related to the Messiah being concealed. So we've been talking about the patterns of Joseph as they relate to the patterns of Messiah, over the past many days. If you've missed any of the teachings, or maybe you're brand new, and if you are brand new, thank you for being here. But I would encourage you to go back and listen to the Aliyah day, which happens every day, Monday through Friday anyway, at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, because we're located here in Fort Worth, Texas. But I want you to go back and listen to those if you haven't, because they're all, crucial to understand the pattern. But as I've been talking about, if you listen to anti-missionaries, and again, an anti-missionary is a traditional Orthodox rabbi or organization whose mission is to prevent Jews really from becoming Christians. But putting that aside, we'll just kind of simplify it. Prevent Jews from believing in the Messiah, Yeshua. Okay, let's stick with that. Because there are some things that the anti-missionaries say and teach and that I actually agree with, and they are 100% correct on. But when it comes to the Messiah being the Yeshua, of course they're wrong. But one of the things that they will say, and it is completely false, and that is that Judaism does not teach that when that there are 2 advents, if you will, of the Messiah. Okay, that Judaism teaches when the Messiah comes, he comes, and that's it. So he doesn't disappear, and therefore, if he shows up on the scene and he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, then he's obviously not the Moshiach, because the Moshiach, once he comes, that's it. But that is false. Okay, 100% false. Judaism, in its most ancient sources, as you're about to see, does not teach that at all. Interestingly, Judaism, in its most ancient sources, teaches that when the Messiah comes, he will be concealed. He will be hidden from us for a time. Now, the time period is up for debate, but it is a time period nevertheless. And we also see that, of course, in today's Aliyah and the pattern that we see in today. So very exciting stuff. We're going to dive into this. About the fundraiser, by the way, for the digital sign that we are hoping and praying to be able to implement very soon. Keturah sent me the numbers, and Keturah, I don't remember. You said 7,000. We're at 7,195, I think, is what you said, if my mind is remembering. But in any case, we are right there at 7,001 something, 7,002, something like that. So it's awesome. So if you can contribute to the sign, I would encourage you to do so. No matter what amount you give, it will be a blessing. And I was a little off. 7,129. All right. So I was slightly off of there. But that's where we are right now. Thank you, Keturah, for that. And we're getting close. I believe by the end of January, we're going to have this taken care of. It's going to be absolutely amazing. So thank you for contributing, and please do so. Good morning, Seth. Glad you're here. Hope you're having a great day. Good morning to Heather Wilson. Hope you and Zachary and the kids are doing great. You have a beautiful looking family there. Good morning, Russ. Boker Tov to you, sir. Hope you, and it's Jennifer, right? Your wife's name is Jennifer, I believe. Good morning to both of you. Good morning, Donna from beautiful Ohio. Milka, hope you and Daniel and Zara are doing great. Good morning, Seth. Good morning, Leah. And yes, happy Hanukkah to you both. Hope you and Shmuel and the girls and the boy. I always forget the boy. Hope you guys are doing great. Good morning, Chanel from beautiful Cincinnati. Chanel I haven't really followed football as much this year for whatever reason, but the Bengals, they missed the playoffs, right? So sad. Kind of a Bengals fan. I'm really a Steelers fan, but kind of a Bengals, which usually doesn't go together. But anyway, it doesn't matter. So good morning, Peaches, formerly from Georgia. Glad you're here. Good morning, Joe from Waynesboro, Virginia. Good morning to you, sir. Good morning, Katura and Kim Bement, Boker Tov. Jeff White, good morning to you, sir, in beautiful Monaghan's, Odessa area. Baruch HaShem. Jeff, we got a little contingent in the Monaghan's area between the Whites and the Griffins. We need to do something in Odessa and Monaghan's. There's obviously people there because there's a little messianic place there, which is very messianic, very Christian, actually. We need to do something to reach the people in Odessa and Monaghan's and Midland in that area. Don't you agree? Maybe y'all could do like a Lapid house there. Good morning, Sarah. Hope you and Shane are doing great. Wendeley, good morning to you. And Wendeley, I feel like you asked a question that I didn't answer. I don't know. This seems like there was a question you had asked, and I just now remembered. Good morning, Greg. Good morning, Manuel. Good morning, Karen Holman. Karen, is this your first time on the program? If so, welcome. Good morning, Samuel. Johan, Boker Tov. Nellie Grace, Boker Tov. Glenn, good morning to you. Ariella, Rafaela, good morning to you as well. And who else do we have? Attila, good morning. And Levi, Boker Tov to you. I hope you and Johanna are doing great. And Shoshana Brenner, Boker Tov, Baruch HaShem. A Beard of Prey, good morning. Ellie Williams, good morning to you. And Joseph and the children. Glad you guys are here this morning. Who else? Jen. Yes, there's Jen. Good morning, Jen. Glad to see you. Good morning, Micaiah. And who else do we have? David White. Good morning to you, sir. Good morning, Zach and Rayford. And Crystal Plunkett. Good morning to you, Crystal. Atara Boker Tov to you, Baruch HaShem. Good morning, Timothy. And Hulda, good morning. You asked a question on WhatsApp. Okay, I'll take a chat. I'll take a look at that. Now, thank you, Wendeley, for reminding me. Karen Holman says I'm usually at work. Well, that makes sense. Makes sense. Well, glad you're here. Hermes, good morning to you. Amita, Boker Tov. And no problem for being late. Better late than never, as they say. So, first and foremost, as we begin in our discussion today, for those of you watching on Facebook, glad you're. By the way, in case anybody is brand new, you're watching and you're thinking, where are these beautiful people? Well, Lapid Judaism is located in Saginaw, Texas, which is just north of downtown Fort Worth, just about 10 minutes or maybe 15 minutes, probably more like 10 minutes, if that, from the stockyards, just north. So we are very close to Fort Worth, and therefore I say Fort Worth a lot of times because that gives people a better maybe perspective or what have you. And the great state of Texas, the Republic of Texas, a bastion of freedom here in the United States. So let's look at a real quick connection here that's important as it connects Joseph that is, and Hanukkah. So Karen lives in North Carolina. We have some people in North Carolina, a couple of families actually. So glad that you're with us. So this is an insight from Rabbi Monk at the very beginning of Parshat Mikeitz, which is in Genesis chapter 41. Okay, so this is the insight that's written here. Vayhi Mikeitz shenatayim yamim. It happened at the end of 2 years to the day. Okay. And there's a saying that says, Lehol sheket sham, he sets an end to the darkness. Okay. With these words, these words are written in the book of Job, chapter 28, verse 3. The Midrash begins its comments on our chapter. Everything it continues with that verse, by the way, everything it continues has an end, including the trials inflicted on man. So there isn't, you know, some people say, I don't see an end to this. There's no end in sight. There's always an end. That's the lesson to be learned. So it says here, Joseph had to suffer in prison, forgotten by everyone for 12 seemingly interminable years. So Joseph was in prison. We're just talking about prison here. We're not talking about slavery, but just in prison. He was in prison for 12 years. His situation must have appeared almost hopeless, right? He seems like that there's no end to it. God has forgotten him. His brothers have forgotten him, etc. It says only his belief and faith in God could help him bear such a cruel ordeal. But the turning point of destiny is being readied in the silence of the absolute, and it intervenes when the time comes at the right moment. For in it is we find the divine plan. So what's being said here, of course, is obvious, and that is that everything that's happened to Joseph up until this point, everything is part of the divine plan. Okay. That's really important because we go back to how Joseph got here. Why is Joseph in prison ultimately? You can say, well, good morning, Denise. And you could say, well, it's because, you know, he was falsely accused by Potiphar's wife. Okay. Well, yeah, but he would not even have been in that situation had it not been for the rejection of his brothers. So the fact that the Jews rejected their Messiah, and remember, Joseph is a type of the Messiah. The fact that the Jews rejected their Messiah is all part of the plan. It's all part of the divine scheme. And of course, you know, yes, he was falsely accused, criminal accusations made against him. He was thrown into prison for 12 years for doing nothing wrong. But yet, had he not been in prison, then he would not have been in a position to interpret the dreams of the baker and the cupbearer, and subsequently would not have been in the position to become viceroy of Egypt. So, I mean, all of this is seemingly obvious, but a lot of times we have to point out the obvious because it's so remarkable. So it goes on to say the Jewish calendar is set up so that the Sidra, which is another way of saying Parashah, by the way, the Sidra Mikeitz is always read on Hanukkah. When the days start to get short and nights longer, this turning point in the year is accompanied by the Hanukkah lights, which symbolically represent the triumph of light over darkness. You know, light is going and has triumphed over darkness. You know, the message of Lapid Judaism is eventually going to be the triumphant message. The message of Lapid Judaism is going to crush Edom. The people now that are, you know, right now you look around, you're like, man, every single house or every single family I know, everybody I know, in one way or another is celebrating this, you know, fake and phony holiday. And nobody, except for me, you know, you might be thinking on your block, only I am celebrating Hanukkah. When that may be the case now, but listen, that is not going to be the situation forever. This message is going to triumph. Why? Because it's truth, and truth always prevails. Good morning, Anthony, and blessings to you. So it says, this turning point in the year is accompanied by the Hanukkah lights, which symbolically represent the triumph of light over darkness. Thus, we see a coincidence, which is not at all fortuitous, with the motif of the history of Yosef, Ketz Sam Lehoshek. He sets limits to the darkness. The connection here, and in many other instances, between the cycle of our holidays and the Torah readings on one hand, and the yearly cycle and the nature and the others, make us aware of the profound harmony between the laws that govern the destiny of the Jewish people and those established by the divine order of creation. So, yeah, very interesting. That's gives a new meaning, or at least a renewed understanding of the importance of Hanukkah as it relates to the story of Joseph. Now, let's go back to this concept here, because as I mentioned in a previous Aliyah, it is remarkable that Joseph comes to power. And, I mean, look, on a human level, you can relate to this, can't you? I mean, I can. I'm sure you can as well. The brothers said, you'll never be the boss of me. You will never, ever be king of us. We will never, ever bow to you. Okay? In fact, you're a dreamer and your dreams are false. We hate your guts and we're going to kill you. Okay? So they sell him into slavery, which basically, as I've said before, is as good as killing him. He goes on, of course, and he gets falsely accused of a crime and so forth and so on, right? And then God elevates him to the place of viceroy. Now you can imagine, and by the way, this has been like 20 years or something like that, right? It's been a long time. A lot of time has passed between the false accusations of the brothers and so forth, the false accusation of Potiphar's wife. I mean, 12 years, right? 12 years. Okay. So he comes to the throne of glory, as it were. He's king of the world. Okay. He has all the power in the entire world, because at that time, Egypt was the world. Okay. And now he goes to the throne, and it'd be very tempting. A lot of human beings, myself included, I'm sure you could say, yeah, me too. This is a great opportunity to say, see, I told you so. I mean, at this juncture, I mean, holy smokes. Joseph is sitting on the throne, and there's Potiphar in front of him. He could have thrown Potiphar into prison. He could have thrown Potiphar's wife in the prison. He could have had her killed. He could have spoken to Pharaoh and said, you know, this woman, she falsely accused me. But he didn't. Why? Because he realized that everything that had happened to him was by the hand of God. So in actuality, her falsely accusing him was actually a gift. Thank you for that. Had you not done that, I wouldn't have been in a position to be sitting here on the throne. Same thing for Potiphar. He could have gone back to his brothers and said, hello, not only are you bowing down to me, but everybody's bowing down to me. So look, there could have been a lot of I told you so's, and on a human level, that's very understandable. Many of us would like to say to those who try to destroy us, I'm still here. And you failed, right? I mean, I understand that. I get that. What's remarkable is he didn't do that. And okay, let's put aside the see, I told you so part, and yeah, I'm still here. You lost. Let's put that aside. Let's just say that he doesn't have any hard feelings, and in which he doesn't. We'll find that out later in another Parshat. But at least at this juncture, he just wants to let everybody know, hey, I'm alive. But he doesn't. he doesn't tell anybody in his family that he's alive. And that's really remarkable, considering the facts. Not only that, as we talked before, he actually is hidden. So it's not as if, hey, we got this Hebrew guy named Joseph, and he's the new king in Egypt. He keeps his identity concealed. And you could argue, well, it really wasn't him keeping his identity concealed. It was really Pharaoh, because he changed his name. Yeah, but then our story today, the brothers are sent to Egypt. That made me think of another insight. Pardon my reach. I got to reach over here got a stack of books to my left. I just think about this one particular insight here. If it's found in our, oh, that's the wrong. I'm sorry, I grabbed the wrong book. Anyway, so his father sends the brothers to Egypt and to find out, about the bread and so forth and so on. And so when the brothers get to Egypt, they actually end up coming before Joseph and kneeling before him. And it actually says in our Parshat today that he remembered this jogs his memory. Oh, by the way, yeah, I see. I had this dream that my brothers are going to come and bow before me. Okay. And he remembers his dream. And then he plays this seemingly game with them that they don't recognize him. And of course, because why? He looks like an Egyptian. He has an Egyptian name. Okay. And he doesn't reveal himself to them. All right, what's the point of all this? The point is that the Messiah is hidden. Once the Messiah is resurrected, good morning, Tangi. Once the Messiah is resurrected, his true identity is concealed. It is hidden from his brothers. It's not that the Jews are blind. It's not really true at all. In fact, some people would say, well, I'm a non-Jew and I'm not blind. I know who the Messiah is. The fact of the matter is, no, actually you don't. See, because you think the Messiah is an Egyptian. I'm using a euphemism here, right? In other words, you don't think that he's a Jew who practices Judaism. To you, he's wearing eye makeup and he's got a little serpent thing on his head, and he eats ham and celebrates Christmas and Easter. You think you don't realize that that's not actually who he is at all. So whereas the Jewish people do not yet recognize that their brother sits on the throne, you don't recognize that that's their brother. Okay. So there's blindness, if you will, on both sides. But going back to this topic here, the Jewish idea is that when the Messiah comes, that's it. He comes. There's no second coming. That is completely and utterly false. And I'm going to prove it to you from the Midrash Rabbah. Okay. Which, by the way, in case you're wondering, the Midrash Rabbah is about, 1,000 years before Rambam wrote everything or even lived. Okay. So the oldest source is always the most authoritative, correct? Of course. So Midrash Rabbah, chapter 2, Siman 22, okay? This is what it says regarding the Messiah, okay? It starts out by saying, my beloved is like a gazelle or the fawn of a deer, okay? My beloved is like a gazelle. Just as this gazelle appears out of concealment and is then again concealed, reappears and is again concealed, so did the first Redeemer Moses appear to the Israelites and then was concealed from them for a time and then reappeared to them. Okay? Now, it sets the pattern. Using Moses as an example. Moses appeared as the Redeemer, and then he was concealed, and then he appeared again. Okay? So just like Moses, the final Redeemer will be revealed, concealed, and then revealed again, okay? That's what the Midrash is bringing down. So then it goes on to say, and for how long was he concealed for them? Rabbi Tankuma says 3 months. Thus it is written concerning the Israelites, foremen who oversaw their brethren's slave labor for the Egyptians. They encountered Moses and Aaron standing opposite them as they left Pharaoh's presence. Exodus 5:20. Yehuda the sage said the word encountered implies that it was an infrequent occurrence. Okay, so now the Midrash concern. So that was just a discussion of how long was the concealment, and there's disagreement on that. The point being, there is a concealment. Incidentally, this reminds me of something. Remember when, just as a reminder here, the angel, air quotes, appeared to Menachem, who was the father of Samson, and turns out he thought it was a prophet prophesying about the birth of Samson. Turns out it wasn't. It was actually Memtet. It was the Messiah. And you know, he asked this person who at the time who he thought was a human being, he said, "What's your name?" And the angel said, "Why do you want to know my name?" And by the way, angels don't conceal their name. Okay, there's no reason to. Like if you're Gabriel, you're Gabriel. If you're Michael, you're Michael. If you're Raphael, you're Raphael. There's no reason for an angel not to give its name. There's really not. I've read some commentaries that try to kind of, you know, gaslight on this, but there's really no issue. Like if an angel has come to give you a message and you say, "What's your name?" They should tell you. Okay, this one doesn't. He says, "Why do you want to know my name? My name is hidden." Well, the root of the word hidden there is pele, which you might think to yourself, okay, and well, that's the same word that's used in Isaiah, where it says, talking about the son given to us, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor. So the hidden and wonderful are ultimately the same word. Okay. Now, just as a side note, but the reason I bring that up is because the name Wonderful, which is one of the names of the Messiah as prophesied to us in Isaiah, one of his names is Wonderful, which also means hidden. That's the point I was trying to make. Okay. Good morning, Amana. Yes, El Gibor, Mighty God, Ava Ed, Everlasting Father, Sar Shalom, Prince of Peace. So, which by the way, the word Shalom is a name of God as well, just in case some of you might not be aware of that, but it is. So, you know, therefore the scripture says, greet each other, you know. There's this verse in Ruth. It talks about a greeting in the name of the Lord or what have you. And when you say shalom, that's what you're doing. Anyway, I digress. So the Midrash continues here. The Midrash, Shir Hashrim, which by the way is Song of Songs, in case I didn't mention that. It says, so too, so it's just talked about the Moses being revealed, concealed, and so forth. So too, the final Redeemer will appear to the Jewish people and will be concealed from them again for a time. I'm sorry, what? Let me read that again. So too, the final Redeemer will appear to the Jewish people and will be concealed from them again for a time. And then the Midrash goes on to discuss how long the length of time will be. Okay, that's all well and good. The footnote says the purpose of this temporary concealment of the Messiah is to fool the recalcitrant nations into thinking that the Messiah has failed. They will harden their hearts and not repent, thus ensuring their ultimate demise. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? Because It's actually not the nations necessarily who believe this, but it's the Jewish people who have believed this. Listen to what it says. The purpose of this temporary concealment of the Messiah is to fool the nations into thinking that Messiah has failed. But isn't that exactly what the anti-missionaries say today? That since Messiah was concealed, then he failed, and therefore it's not the Messiah. But that's actually not true. Judaism teaches, I just read it, and I'm going to continue to read it because we're not done, that there are actually two advents of the Messiah, two comings of the Messiah. It is a false, listen to me, it is a false idea in Judaism that there's only one advent of the Messiah. That is completely false. Okay? I just proved it from the Midrash Rabbah. Okay? So he's gonna appear, and we see this in the pattern. He appeared, as it were, to the brothers, then he was concealed from them. In our Parshat today, the brothers actually come and kneel before Joseph, but they don't know it's Joseph. And he plays along and says, you guys are spies, and so forth and so on. And accuses them of espionage. Why? Well, we'll find out at the end of the story that all of this had to do with bringing his brothers to Teshuvah, ultimately. Okay. Now, I want to read this little insight here. This is as found in the Midrash Rabbah. So the title of this insight is a 2 steps to redemption. It's obviously a Texas theme. The text is 2 steps to redemption. Okay. What? I'm sorry. What? There's 2 steps to redemption. I was always told that when the Messiah comes, that'll be it. No. So it says here, why is it necessary for the Redeemer, whether Moses or the Messiah, to appear and disappear? Okay. Is this helping anybody, by the way? I'm just asking. I'm seriously asking. This is confirmation from the Midrash Rabbah that there are 2 advents of the Messiah. That is huge. Okay. Which is why I've said before, there have been other messiahs, they're not the true Messiah, of course, that the Jews have believed in, even though they disappeared, like Bar Kokhba, like Shabbatai Zvi. Why? Because of what I'm reading. So it says, anyway, why is it necessary for there to be, for the Messiah to appear and disappear? Some commentators maintain that the purpose is to mislead Israel's enemies and make it harder for them to repent. Okay, that's the note I just read. Maharal, however, takes a different approach. The redemption of Israel is such a world-altering event that it cannot take place all at one time, all at once. This is what Maharal taught. The nation, the human race, the world itself must be allowed some time to adjust before the transformation can be made complete. That is why, continues Maharal, that God sent word of the coming redemption of Egypt with the double expression, Pakodi etchem. I have surely remembered you, Exodus 3:16. The repetitive phrase was meant to indicate, so that what's it's saying here that the word pakod is actually mentioned twice. Pakod bechadi etchem. I have surely remembered you. The repetitive phrase was meant to indicate that there would be 2 remembrances separated by Moses' temporary disappearance. Regarding the future as well, God employed a dual expression to herald the Messiah. Through the prophet Zechariah, he said, behold, there is a man, his name is Zemach, and he will flourish, Yitzmach, in his place, and he will build the sanctuary of HaShem. This is Zechariah 6:12. This prophecy alludes to 2 flourishings. Zeminchot, for the Messiah, like Moses, the Messiah, it says, like Moses, will arrive to begin his work, disappear, and then arrive again to complete his task of remaking the world into a temple of divine service and a monument to God's glory. Isn't that absolutely remarkable? Again, I'm reading here from the Midrash Rabbah, chapter 2, Siman 22. There's a couple of other pull quotes here from our Midrash. This is crucial. This is so important. By the way, this is another reason why there are certain sects of Judaism today that believe that the Rebbe who started their sect, there's a couple different ones I have in mind, but they believe that the Rebbe who started their sect is the Messiah. But the Rebbe is dead. He passed away. One is in the 20th century and the other is in the 18th century. How could these, I mean, you're talking, and by the way, we're not talking about little fringe cult groups. We're talking about Jewish sects that have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of followers. These are not little bitty, like, weird groups, often grandma's little back corner, grandma's basement, having secret meetings. These are major Jewish movements that have been around, by the way, for a long time. How could they believe that their Rebbe who passed away, how could they possibly believe he's the Messiah if he's not alive? Oh, are you going to tell me that these Jews, who, by the way, are Hasidic, they're not educated in Jewish literature? Are you going to tell me that they're not familiar with Jewish teachings about the Messiah? Are you going to tell me that they're just wrong and lost? They don't have the Torah. They don't have the Torah. They don't understand Tanakh. Of course not. But they know something that the anti-missionaries have lied to you about. And that is that the Messiah is supposed to appear, be concealed, and reappear. I'll tell you another little secret that they know. The Messiah is supposed to die and then be resurrected. You see, a Messiah who that's not part of the equation, it's actually a false Messiah. So everything that's happened to Yeshua actually validates, everything validates him as the Messiah. It's a good question. Levi asked, Rabbi, were the brothers wrong for bowing before an Egyptian viceroy? It's a good question. I'm going to say no, because they were probably doing that in the sense of just paying honors to a dignitary. Because theoretically, the viceroy would not be a deity, but Pharaoh would be in the eyes of the Egyptians. I'm going to go with no, but that is a good question. It's a good question. It's an interesting question. Let me read these two pull quotes here. This is all continuing from the Midrash. Whoever trusts in the Messiah and follows him into the wilderness and awaits his return during these 45 days of concealment. So here the Midrash is saying that it'll be a 45-day concealment. But again, the time period is not really relevant because that's just a guess, just a discussion. As I just said, one of these Rebbes who they believe is a Messiah has been dead since the 1700s. So, time frame is irrelevant. But anyway, I digress. Whoever trusts in the Messiah and follows him into the wilderness and awaits his return during the 40 days of concealment, he will live to see the ultimate redemption. So it's the Midrash is saying here that, listen, not only is the Messiah going to be concealed, the Messiah is going to be in exile, and you have to be willing to follow him there. Where is Joseph? In exile. Where do the rabbis say that the Messiah is right now? He's at the gates of Rome. He's in exile. He's not Roman. He's certainly not Christian. but he's at the gates of Rome. Yeshua said, when the people said to him, I will follow you wherever you go, he said, birds have nests, foxes have holes, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head. That was a euphemistic statement saying, I'm going into exile. Are you willing to follow me? So this brings up another point. The idea of the anti-missionaries, which is also a false, is that when the Messiah comes, we'll all know, and we'll all be like, yay. That's not true. A, the Midrashim brings down that when the Messiah comes, we will reject him. And B, when the Messiah comes, we'll be in exile with him. What does it mean to be in exile? It means that he's not been accepted. Hello? Because if he was accepted, there wouldn't be exile. Does that make sense? Pretty logical, right? What's another pull quote? It goes on to say, and whoever does not trust in him and goes to make peace with the idolatrous nations of the world, in the end, they will kill him. Okay? They will kill him. Well, let's read that again. And whoever does not trust in him, who? The Messiah, and goes to make peace with the idolatrous nations of the world, in the end, they will kill him. Rabbi Yitzhak Bar Maron said, at the end of the 45 day of concealment, the Messiah will again appear to the Jews, and he will bring down manna for them in keeping with that which is written. Whatever has been will be, and whatever has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9. Whoa, wait, what? So now we see something else. The Messiah is said to be hidden and then reappear. But one of the things Messiah is supposed to do is bring down manna for the people. Any wonder why Yeshua said, he's the bread from heaven? And he subsequently brought down bread. By the way, are you aware that the Midrash, I've read this actually, I think I covered this in one little section. Midrash about Genesis, Parshat Bereshit, that providing sustenance for people is as difficult as parting the Red Sea. In other words, it requires a divine effort. Just you having food every day is a big miracle that comes from God. Judaism teaches that one of the keys, there's 4 keys, but one of the keys that God alone has possession of, he alone and no one else, okay, is providing sustenance, food, provision. Therefore, when Yeshua fed the 5,000 twice, you now know how significant that was. It wasn't just a miracle of food. It was a miracle of provision, okay? The multiplication of bread. That was the big miracle, okay? Now, let's read a couple of pull quotes here as we're wrapping up today's teaching. This is from Rabbi Asher Weiss on the Parshat. He quotes Ramban as to why Yosef concealed his identity. So as we read this, let's think about why is the identity of the Messiah concealed today? Good morning, Arach, watching on Facebook. Why don't our people know the Messiah yet? And by the way, no amount, let me just say this. Lapid Judaism is not here to reach Jewish people. I mean, if we do on occasion, that's great. But we're here to reach the nations, because that's what Yosef, that's what the hidden Messiah is supposed to be doing. He's supposed to be reaching Egypt first. But that's for another time. It's for another discussion. No amount of preaching the gospel is ever going to win the Jews. First of all, the gospel that's being preached by the church is, a false gospel. The Jews will never believe it, I promise you, and nor should they. Okay? You say, false gospel? You don't believe in the atoning work of the Messiah? No, I do. That's not the part that's false. The part that's false is not being Jewish anymore, not keeping the law of Moses, no longer having to eat kosher, having ham at Christmas. Like that's a big out. Like no Jew's ever going to do that. Okay. Nor should they. It's totally pagan. That's a big no-go. Okay. Church on Sunday. First of all, church, which means literally circus at its root. Do you realize that? Do you know that? The word church literally means circus. On Sunday? No, it's never going to happen. Okay. But anyway, that's also not part of the pattern anyway. So when the Messiah comes, that's when the Jewish people will believe. All right. All right, let me go back and read these quotes real quick. So it says here, this is what Ramban says, according to Rabbi Weiss. Yosef understood that his dreams of his family bowing down to him were a prophetic vision. To bring about the fulfillment of this prophecy, he had no choice but to conceal his identity despite the regrettable anguish that this would cause Yaakov and his sons. So the point is that part of the concealment is a necessary component in order to bring about the salvation of the people of God. That's a reality. Now it goes on to say here, another pull quote, where was the compassion that every sensitive person should naturally feel towards his own flesh and blood? Where was the brotherly love that is the foundation of our entire Torah? How could they have ignored Joseph's desperate cries for mercy while they sat down to eat a meal? Think about that. We talked about this earlier, but we crucified the Messiah and then we sat down to have Passover dinner. Like, that's sadistic. How could we feel so at ease in our conscience that we could crucify? Okay, so you don't think he's the Messiah, but there's no reason to turn a Jew over to the Gentile courts. First of all, that's forbidden by Torah law to begin with. How could we feel okay with that? How can we feel okay that there was a Jewish man, think he's the Messiah or not, crucified on a Roman crucifix? And we feel so good about it, we can sit down and have Passover dinner like an hour later. Not the next day, that night. Well, it says here. He says, how could they sit down to a meal? This was their inexcusable sin, which Joseph felt obligated at all costs to expunge for the benefit of all future generations of Klal Israel. In other words, part of this concealment had to do with the necessity of bringing them to a point of teshuvah whereby that sin would be expunged. This is what Zechariah talks about when it says, we will look upon the one whom we pierced and mourn like we mourn for a brother. Now, in conclusion here, one more pull quote and we'll sign off. It says, the completion of their teshuvah was finally attained by Messiah ben Yosef. But now we're talking about the Messiah ben David, when the Messiah ben David is willing to suffer. Messiah ben Yosef's already willing to suffer, but is Messiah ben David willing to suffer? Of course, Messiah ben David doesn't suffer. He doesn't need to, but he's willing to. You see the difference? It says, when he's willing to suffer in place of Benjamin, the highest expression of love for another human being is when one is willing to accept suffering in his stead. Yeshua said this, no greater love has anyone that he laid down his life for a friend. That's what I'm reading here, which, by the way, is an Orthodox source I'm reading. It says, Rabbi Yishmael said, let me be the atonement for Bnei Israel. Rav Ovadiah Mi Batanura explains that in Rabbi Yishmael's great love for the Jewish people, he prayed that any misfortune intended for Bnei Israel should befall him instead. I thought the Messiah I thought nobody can die for you. I thought the anti-missionaries lied to you again. They said, no, Judaism doesn't teach that anybody can die for you. That's a lie. End of our Aliyah today. Hag Sameach Hanukkah to all of you. Happy Hanukkah. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. We will be back together tomorrow to continue our discussion here. And so we're entering into a great time of miracles. I pray HaShem will bring miracles of healing, miracles of finances, miracles of light in every respect into your life and the merit of the Messiah Yeshua. Thank you for being here. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Until we meet then, happy Hanukkah, every one of you.